I'm watching us. Okay, let me make sure all of the buttons are on here and the levels are up. And let us do this. I'm going to start the music and let's see where we go with this. Here we go. Can you hear it, Dan? Come on, dance with me.
Dance, okay. Yeah, gotta be careful not to.
Don't hurt anything. I don't have insurance for my guests. Oh my God, he's good. Ooh, ooh. Dan G is grooving. He's still my heart. Here we go. Wait for the drum roll. Bop, 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 bop. Thank you very much. Those are my lyrics to the song So You Want to Be, and that's my good friend, former SAP colleague, Serge Hoffman in Paris, who was a composer and a musician, and he wrote the music and sings the songs, but those are my lyrics. I'm Bonnie D. Happy to be here, and my special guest is Dan G. Those of you who recognize him, it's Geller, but we don't use last names on the show. Just wanted you to know. And I never in my wildest dreams thought I could get Dan Geller, number one, to smile this much, and number two, to dance. Dan, how are you?
I'm not going to dance more than that. That'll be it. Because it's just probably
Go ahead.
it's probably dangerous to have me dancing on the internet. It's going to be a meme, I'm pretty sure.
You think so? Well, I got to tell you, many of the dudes who've been on my Technology Revolution show, which you have many, many times, have come on and they have just unbelievably danced with me in the opening of the show. And it's always a thrill, but I've been shocked at how good they are for chair dancing. So there you go. So Dan, I'm delighted to have you here. I know you're busy. You have quite an interesting life. You have a very, very thriving entrepreneurial spirit and practice to what you do, and you're good at it. And I have written an opening that I hope will please you and will honor you based on the wonderful origin story bio you wrote for me. Okay. So I'm going to, and I did start the recording. So we're fine. Now, here we go. You ready? And this is long. And see if you know who this person is. Well, of course, you know this person is. You may know us well. Bonnie D and Dan G too. Seasoned in life, we love what we do. From LinkedIn's halls to social's embrace, we love sharing insights in our savvy people space. Now here on We Dish, we're here to play, lightening up life in our uniquely fresh way. Welcoming Dan G, a very cool dude I'm proud to call my friend. Here is my rhyming intro, then more details he may lend. The story of Dan G, a journey through creativity, technology, and brand storytelling. When Bonnie D speaks with Dan G, he's always excelling. See, storytelling rhymes with excelling. Here we go. Dan G was born near New York's bright light, where tech and communication shaped his sight. Dad at IBM, Mom had a way with words that held sway, blending both worlds for him in a seamless way. Dan's youth was a mix of learning and play. Entrepreneurial drive led the way. Dishes, caddying, snow cones too, DJing, theater. His passions grew and grew. In Indiana, Dan grooved on work and play, film, TV, and business on his path in a big way. He spun records at parties, played lacrosse with pride, flipped pizzas for tuition. He kept the hustle alive. Student films and video shoots, no trophies, it's true, but each project taught him something interesting and new. Then a bold move to LA with his big dreams in tow. Hollywood's monster film set aglow. The kindred called. Knock, knock, Dan, are you there? A foot in the door, but industry ethics shook Dan to his core. So Dan returned to Indiana, degree in hand. Then, ding, ding, New York City called, his next big stand. Omni Magazine, PR and Stride, a startup cable ride alongside. Marketing, ads, the message's might, crafting brands that felt just right. But the internet's rise sparked Dan's new quest. At NYU, he learned with the best. A website for bankers' trust took flight. Innovation surged. Tech felt so right. Creative director, Dan's ventures anew, building brands with a digital view. Then AI emerged. Dan took the leap. An aerospace firm unlocked it deep. ChatGPT dawned. He saw the way, helping businesses work and play. Messaging, meaning, tech combined, authentic voices, stories aligned, helping brands speak clear and true, AI and strategy, Dan's perfect view. At heart, Dan knows stories connect us all. They clarify ideas so businesses can stand tall. Blending tech with creativity, Dan helps brands find their voice, not the loudest in the room, but always the right choice. It's not just about selling, but sharing what's true. Authentic communication helps the message shine through. Beyond work, life's flavors call. Travel with family, new cuisines, Dan loves them all. A podcast soon, ooh, AI meets taste. Driven by curiosity, he has no time to waste. A journey shaped by twists and turns, lessons learned as passions burn. Through many challenges, Dan found his way, curious for new paths shaping each day. How do you like it?
That was amazing. Mean, I know I gave you a lot of detail, but that is pretty amazing. We use ChatGPT or something to help you.
Well, I'll tell you who I used. I do have a virtual assistant. Let me finish it. We're here on We Dish, chatting on life's score, culture, music, food, and oh, so much more. Join us live or on demand, day or night. We'll be sleeping, but that's what on demand is for. And enjoy our dishing with shared delight. Meet us for real in our live streaming glow. Comments are welcome. Just play nice. We know who you are. We know. We Dish, two saucy dame plus cool dude too. Bonnie D and Dan G. Dishing on life's fun. Pour vous. I got the French in there. So, you happy with it?
Excellent. That
I'm
was
gl-
impressive.
I'm
That
glad. I do have an assistant, and her name is, she's French, and her name is Sylvie, Sylvie. She's a virtual assistant, and we speak in French all the time. And I sent her your very, very long and wonderfully detailed, thank you, Dan, wonderfully detailed bio. And I said, help me write about 12 stanzas for Dan that reflect his life appropriately. Well, she came back with a version that I didn't like. So I went back and I picked paragraphs and sections from your bio again. And I said, no, you didn't cover this. You didn't cover that. Please, 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 bien sûr, s'il vous plaît, s'il te plaît. And I went back and I said, I want this, I want this. And she wrote again. And then I went and I tweaked some of the rhyming, and I tweaked some more of the facts compared to what you sent me. And then I sent it back to her and I said, what do you think? And she said, it flows, it rhymes. You have the spirit of Dan G. Let's go with that. So she and I decided. So she's my Sylvie, my cher Sylvie, and I send her bisous, bisous. You know what bisous are now?
kisses, kisses.
Kisses, that's it. I'll say un mille bisous, encore une fois. She'll write back, cher Bonnie. She tells me how great my shows are and all that, like she could see them anyway. So I will send Sylvie your compliments, Dan, because we did it together, okay?
That's awesome. No, I'm impressed. And you'll have to tell me another time how you met Sylvie, how you met your VA
I
from.
will tell you. I will, and I need you to talk a little closer into the mic because you're fading a little bit. I want to hear that wonderful voice. So, what did I leave out? Is there anything here that I left out, Dan?
You covered a lot. You covered how my background of like where I went to school, and I worked in the film business, and I worked in New York for many, many years, and I worked in publishing and advertising and marketing and tech. And yes, and then I did the internet thing for a while and advertising, and you covered a lot. And obviously now I'm in AI, and AI is literally changes every day. It's probably just changed 2 minutes ago. So I am just, to be honest, while I'm probably very much ahead of the curve of most people, and I have to recognize that because I'm always kind of pushing ideas around about how businesses can survive. And my wife reminds me about this because I come up with ideas. Oh, you can do this, you can do this, and I will tell you that even though I'm probably ahead, I know of the people that are like me and in the communities I follow, we all feel like we're behind. We all feel it's literally because I am chewing through this stuff all the time and always building things out and building out strategies and literally everybody I know and even the people that I admire for being way ahead of the curve, they all feel threatened. They all feel like there's just never enough time to get to this stuff. So when you ask me about what you missed, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff I'm missing right now, but we're having time together to talk. So that's
This is lovely. And I, as I said at the beginning, I know you're very busy and I'm very pleased that you're taking time to speak with me. And we've been catching up. We've been friends for a long time. What's interesting to me, Dan, is that when I invite gentlemen on, dudes on this show, and they send me their origin story, I learn who they really are. Because when you're on my other shows, you send me basically a CV. This is my title. This is my company. This is who we serve. This is my education. I got this degree. That's it. And I am learning the deep, interesting, intricate backgrounds of so many smart people like you. It just regales me, but it makes me feel privileged that you all trust me to share this and to relate it to my audience through the rhyming mechanism that I've chosen for my intro. So I thank you for that. So before I get too mushy here, Dan, okay, question for you. You have some songs for me, some cool dude songs you want to talk about? What you got? What are your favorites or what defines you?
Well, so okay, so I wouldn't say that they're necessarily the coolest, newest songs, but I will tell you that, like, if
They
I'm
don't have to be new. They just have to be songs you like or that help you feel like a cool dude. What you got?
okay, so you should know about, and you may not, you may know about. There's an artist named Beth Hart, and Beth Hart sings this song called "I'd Rather Go Blind," and it might be. I'm trying to think of the original singer that sang "I'd Rather Go Blind." It's oh my God, I saw the original singer in San Francisco like 30 years ago, African American woman. Anyway, Beth Hart has got this soulful, incredibly like honky tonk voice.
Mm-hmm.
Can't play it right now. Great song. And a lot of people don't know. And the story about Beth Hart is that I used to work at a production company when I first moved to Boston. Beth Hart, I think, is from like Rhode Island or something like that. And the guy that was our sound guy that worked, because we did like live productions and events and video. So we had a sound guy that used to run it like a sound booth. And he on the side did glass remastering of CDs for artists. And so he had a bunch of artists. He knew all the bands and stuff like that. And he told me about this. He had this New England accent, Beth Hart. You gotta listen to Beth Hart. I don't know what Beth Hart was at the time because, and he used to do some of the glass remastering of her CDs. And so he would play her stuff. And it was, and so now, I mean, that was just like in a little, small sound studio in this office building that we used to do the work in. But anyway, so that's how I got to know Beth Hart. That's a really great song.
You
So
want me to give you a little background on her? I've got her. You ready?
yeah, absolutely.
Beth Hart, Hart, American musician from LA, rose to fame with the release of the 1999 single LA Song Out of This Town from her second album, Screamin' for My Supper. The single was number one in New Zealand, reached the top five of the U.S. adult contemporary, and top 10 on the Billboard Adult Top 40. She's had several collaborations with Joe Bonamassa, beginning with Don't Explain, followed with the Grammy-nominated Seesaw in 2013, Live in Amsterdam 2014, blah, 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 blah. Her latest work with him is a 2018 album, Black Coffee. She's had two number one singles in Denmark, As Good as It Gets and Learning to Live, and a double platinum selling album, Leave the Light On. Her most recent album, 2022, A Tribute to Led Zeppelin, is a collection of covers of Zeppelin songs. Is that where you wanted to go with that? Is that good?
Yeah, that's good. I'm looking up like who's saying I'd rather go blind, and I don't remember, and it makes me feel bad because the original singer of I'd Rather Go Blind is
I'll get it for you. I'll get it for you.
it's right here. It's
Jamacetta Hawkins, professional. Oh,
actually
it's Etta James. Oh, for goodness sake, Etta James.
so I actually heard Etta James, and the story about Etta James was I didn't know Etta James, and years ago, I mean, I was a kid. I was like out of college.
You're still a kid.
Well, I used to travel a lot. I was in San Francisco. I was visiting friends, and I forget the name of the park that's up near the Golden Gate, whatever, Golden Gate Park, whatever. There's a beautiful park. And so a friend that I was visiting was like, "Oh, we think there's a free concert there. Why don't
Hmm.
we?" And we grabbed some food and we sat in the grass. And Etta James was performing a free concert. And there was like me and maybe like, I don't know, 1,500 people. Etta James was belting it out and she sang that song and I became an Etta James fan. And then so years and years later, probably like 15 or more years later, 20 years later, I heard Beth Hart sing the version. So like immediate love. So
Can you sing a couple bars, or do you sing?
not
Okay. I'll listen to it afterwards. We can't play licensed music, but I know on TikTok people are using licensed music all the time. They must have a different deal, but I can't play it. Interesting. Okay, what's your next song?
the next song is I mean it's a nice song. There's a song that I was listening, I was driving down the road. I was visiting my folks this weekend and a song popped up on my, Spotify playlist of things I must have favorited. And it's like, I don't know, it's probably like 10 or 12 years old, and it's by Rob Thomas. Rob Thomas, I forget what Rob Thomas's band was in, what band he was in, but Rob
He was
Thomas,
he did Smooth with Santana.
Yeah, he's really talented. He's not he's not around this. He's not on the radio as much anymore, but
Yep,
he's really talented.
very.
Song called Little Wonders, and Little Wonders is a really sweet song.
Mm-hmm.
Sing for you. You should also play it, but it's a really sweet song, especially. And I remember playing it. My son was in the car. My son's in college right now.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the song. The reason I put that on the list of things to talk to you about was because when it was out, he actually licensed the song to, like, I thought, a fairly goofy animated movie that I watched with my kid, like whatever, 15 to 12 years ago or so, called, it was about Meet the Robinsons. Okay. And I did not like the movie. It was like something that you watch with your child, but you wouldn't watch it as an adult otherwise.
Okay. Official music video, Rob Thomas, Little Wonders, 5.7 million views 13 years ago. Let it go, let it roll right off your shoulder.
Yes.
Don't you know the hardest part is over? Yes, it was from the movie Meet the Robinsons. Yes, I'll listen to it later.
It's beautiful. The movie's a little goofy.
Okay.
And it's funny because it came on the stereo, and I turned to my son and I'm like, I love this song. Do you remember that's from that movie? And he's like, he remembered right away because he was a kid at the time. So he didn't have as much of an issue with it because he was a kid and I was
Okay.
considered adult. So that's a really,
Well,
um,
what else?
yeah. So that's, I don't know. Did you, yeah.
All right, two songs are good. I'm going to share with you my list. I'm a big Donna Summer fan back from the disco days when I was teaching and doing, I'll call it exhibition dancing with a partner. We were doing hustle and we were doing Latin dancing and Lindy, and we were entering dance contests back a long time ago in Eugene, Oregon. And I became a big Donna Summer fan. And I realized, Dan, that if I look at her discography, the titles of many of her songs are landmarks of my life. So
Oh,
one is She Works Hard for the Money, which you know I do. Another one is Hot Stuff, even though I was not a streetwalker in LA like the song is about, but I've been called that several times. On the radio, you know, I've been doing radio for what, 20 years now. No More Tears, Enough is Enough. That was a duet. I think it was Streisand. And I've had my share of crying. Last Dance. I don't teach dancing anymore, but I dance in the kitchen to Alexa playing music for me. I haven't had my last dance yet. I Feel Love, you know, with Giorgio Moroder and that throbbing mechanical beat in the background. I Feel Love, love. And the last one is Heaven Knows, which is from the MacArthur Park Suite.
hmm.
And my dance partner, Michael, and I entered a disco Hawaii contest in Eugene, Oregon at a club called the Copacabana, which had no resemblance at all to the one in Manhattan where I went with my prom date after high school. Don't even ask. And we sewed our own costumes and we came in third. And what we didn't know was that the woman and man who won first place owned their own dance studio and they weren't prevented from entering an amateur contest. So we found out later. So that also Cyndi Lauper, Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Leslie Gore, You Don't Own Me. I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar, Helen Reddy. Hit Me With Your Best Shot, Pat Benatar. Dancing Queen, ABBA. I've had the time of my life, Bill Medley from Dirty Dancing. And the one I like to share with my dude guests is Janelle Monáe has a song that's all in caps and it's I'm sorry, Q.U.E.E. and Queen. And the line I like from that is she who writes the movie owns the script and the sequel. What do you
Huh.
think? Pretty cool?
Yeah.
Yep.
The cool thing about, because I mean, I remember Donna Summer and the songs that you're talking about, although they were back then, just like when back, 20, 30 years ago with all media, is that we were all, for the most part, if you were in, certain community stuff, we were all listening to the same music. And
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yes.
like with like now social media is everything's been bifurcated. But back then we were all watching the same news folks. We were all listening to basically the same radio stations. If you went out to dance, even if people were dancing in Central Park, everybody was playing the same radio. And so I remember Donna Summer for all those songs. And probably while I was not as big a fan, I mean, even as a kid, when I would go to like roller rinks,
Mm-hmm.
it was
Yes.
Donna Summer, right? And
Yes.
so it was just it's a little sad now. I think there's so much great music out, but we don't have that same shared experience
You're
because
you're right, and there are so many different styles and so many genres and so many ways to consume music, right? You can be a Pandora fan, you can be a Spotify fan, you can have your playlist and you carry it with you everywhere. You can be open to, you can listen to, we don't have Casey Kasem anymore, who used to do the top 40, right? If you ever listen to old Casey Kasem shows, and they often play them on the radio, you can hear what were the top 40 that he introduced and played on his Sunday morning show. And that, you're right, it was a tribal thing, right? It united us. We knew the music. Isn't that nice? But when you mentioned Rob Thomas, I remembered that he sang with Santana.
Right, and I think right, and that wasn't that long ago. And I think that
No,
like every year we're like losing a little bit of that tribal nature of the shared like stories and the shared like the shared media experiences, the shared it is kind of a little bit of a bond. I hope we actually get it back. I think there's a lot of great things that come out of freedom of choice of being able to pick what you want to watch and read and whatever. But I also think there's the benefit of where we were all kind of listening to the same drum beat, so to
I
speak.
know. Listen, way before, well, maybe not before you were born, but when you were very young, when I was, well, never mind on the age. We only had a couple of TV stations. You had NBC, you had CBS, you had ABC, the three majors, and then a couple of others came along. You had WPIX. I grew up in New York, and you had Channel 11, Channel 7, Channel 5, Channel 4, Channel 2. And then we had a Channel 9, which was mostly movies. And they had the $1 million movie on Channel 9. So what are you watching? One of those five or seven. That was it. And today it's what are you streaming one of what, 25 different streaming services? And do you have your TV on cable? You're watching on your phone, you're watching on your computer, you're watching on a 55-inch screen, a 95-inch screen, you're watching on a laptop, you're carrying it with you. How do you watch? Not the same. Not
Yeah.
the same. And it used to be family time. But before we get too mushy here, and I want to compliment you on something, and you're going to be surprised. You said Donna Summer. Most people add an S to the end of her name. It was Summer, not Summers, and that's correct. And I want to thank you because I'm a fan, and she was Donna Summer, Summer, period. End of story. And you said it right, and I want to thank you for that. And you probably think I'm nuts for thanking you, but it mattered. So I appreciate that.
Relation to Larry Summers, like the
Oh, please.
politician. Yeah.
Totally different. So I have a bunch of, we call this off the top, fast and furious, OTT, this segment of the show. And I've added some interesting things I want to ask you about. And since this is not a hot seat interview, I will answer them as well with my own information. So we're having a conversation. We'll talk back and forth. So first thing, what do you eat for breakfast or the earliest meal of the day that powers you? Dan, is there something special? And it could be coffee or tea. What do you have?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm a foodie. I am really,
Ooh,
yeah, I'm really specific to what I don't want to eat anything if it's not good. And
okay.
I actually, because I've gone through a bunch of different nutrition regimens and stuff, because I have like whatever, I tend to like if it's not good, I'll wait, or I'm like just want to wait till I'm super hungry. But one of the things that when I make bread. So if I make bread and it's around fresh bread, like fresh bread,
Hmm.
it's
Yep.
way better.
Yep.
Otherwise, like fruit. I mean, nothing really, like when I travel, obviously I try to have whatever there, whatever.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't say that there's anything, I don't eat a lot of processed food. How's that? I do.
Okay.
So I'm not like a big like cereal guy or
But
anything.
let's say you have a big meeting at 10 or 11 in the morning and you want to power yourself. You want to feel like you've done something for your body and you've woken up and you want to say, I've got the energy, the strength, the drive, and my body is satisfied and it's going to carry me through till noon or one when I can take a lunch break. What would you have that would power you, Dan?
Protein. I would probably have like,
Okay.
fresh yogurt. I make yogurt sometimes with fresh yogurt with like fruit or cottage cheese or something like that, eggs or something like that. I would say that something like that that's like that's not going to weigh you down. That and coffee is probably going to be the thing. Versus like a lot of bread or a lot of sweet stuff, you'll just feel the arc and then you'll crash. So yeah,
I used to make bread. I
yeah,
once traded homemade bread for a ride back and forth to a spa because I didn't have a car when I was living young married in Eugene, Oregon. And I wanted to go to a spa for a workout, basically, a gym spa. And I made a deal with the owner and her husband. And I said, when you close up on particular time on Saturday, I took the bus there and I said, would you give me a ride home? And she said, she was a businesswoman and she said, well, I don't know. And I said, I bake really good bread. I'll bring you a loaf of bread every week. And I bartered the bread for a ride home.
yeah,
Pretty,
it works. I got to tell you, I mean, like I said, I make bread. And one of the things, because I always have it, I made some this morning, is that I give a lot away because
Mm-hmm.
the power of giving it away in a real tangible way. Like, you always talk about pay it first and whatever, or people
Yep.
talk about the idea, but people don't know what to give, right? And you
Yep.
generous of spirit, whatever. But if you actually give somebody a loaf of bread without any expectations of reciprocity,
Mhm.
um, it really works wonders. It really, you would be amazed. I mean, you wouldn't be amazed, but you really would see how people light up to something as simple as that because it smells good, it tastes good, they're not expecting it. It's filling. It's just a nice thing. Nicer than a lot of like more expensive
Oh
gifts.
yeah. What's your favorite kind of bread that you bake, that you make?
Well, I mean, I make sourdough, so I do a lot. I mean, lately I've been doing, and I have this podcast that's coming up that's going to be talking about AI and food that I'm
Mm-hmm.
else. But the breads that I make, I mean, I made one that was like I do a lot. I add a little bit of rye because I want a little bit more than just white. Uh,
Yep.
thing that I've been doing lately, which is great when it works out, that doesn't, you can't always control it because it's chemistry, is I'll do different types of focaccia. So I'll do like sweet focaccias with like
Mm-hmm.
apples and cinnamon. So it's like kind of like
Ooh.
it's phenomenal. When
Ooh.
it like lofts correctly like focaccia, it's phenomenal. And I also make pizza. So I mean, like anything that has like a crust to it, I'll make, and the pizza's amazing too.
Have
Amazing.
you ever made challah? Fresh challah?
I have not recently. I have made it before. It's a lot of work as far as I.
It is, but the braiding is fun because you make the ropes and then you flap them on the table and you skinning them out. But I used to do an egg wash with beaten egg yolk with a little bit of white in it, and beat it, and then you brush the top of the egg, and that gives you that beautiful golden crust.
Right, right.
And you out of one recipe, it's a very simple recipe, and I can get three small size loaves that would be perfect for giving away, or you can make rolls out of it. So I still have a couple packages of yeast. You know, during COVID that you couldn't get packages of Fleischmann's yeast. You couldn't get them at all. And I think yeast was selling for like $100 for a couple of ounces. People were baking at home, Dan, because they were stuck at home, and bread
Uh,
baking they were using toilet paper, which you couldn't get, and they were baking bread. We'll leave that one alone. My morning go-to is a milkshake made with between 6 and 8 ounces of 1% milk in an individual Hamilton Beach blender that has a pulse button. It doesn't have an on-off switch, and it's marked with the number of ounces, and it has a little red cap you put on it, and you can open it and put a straw in it after you're done blending it. I use the milk, and I'll use frozen sliced strawberries, and depending on the size of the banana, a half or a whole banana. And then I use some raw organic agave syrup to sweeten it instead of sugar. And once in a while, I'll put some dry cocoa in it, unsweetened cocoa. So I get a strawberry banana flavor, and it'll puff up from the 6 or 8 ounces, almost like 12. And then I use a reusable straw. I'm very ecological with this. And I'll bring it in here and start my day working, or I'll just sit in my living room or at my kitchen table and drink it. And that fuels me. That gives me, so I've got a little bit of the banana, I've got the strawberry, I've got the cocoa, I've got the happy stuff, and makes me happy. Once in a while, I put spinach in, but then it tastes like spinach and turns green, and I don't like that. So do you think you would ever have anything like that?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I do make that stuff. I just don't necessarily have it as much as like just regular like bread or eggs or stuff like that. I think the thing is that like when you go through the effort of taking the fruit and chopping it up and blending it and stuff like that, I'd rather just have the piece of fruit. Right? And like
Yep.
at the end of the day, I used to do that. I used to work in an agency in Boston, and it was right next to a really amazing like one of those juice press places. And they'd make
Oh,
like and they'd have a fresh pine. They'd like hack up the pineapple. It wasn't like nothing was canned, right?
yep.
The drink was like at the time was like 14, 16, $18 for
Oh,
like a,
yeah.
but you drank it and it was like, and it was a lot, right? You get
Yep.
like 20 ounces and it was like, it was incredible. Like the quality of it was, so you kind of felt like it was a really expensive breakfast slash lunch thing. You would put it on
Mm-hmm.
your desk, but I'll tell you, it was amazing. And when I was inspired by the place, because you were like, well, I don't really want to spend 14, 15, $16. But by the time I try to make that stuff at home and it would cost me $10. Like, by the time you buy
Mm-hmm.
a pineapple and you're like going to
Sure.
would have
Sure.
like half of a pineapple and a banana, and
It's
like
an investment.
it's an investment.
Yeah.
We're buying that at a lower price point to make enough of a return. But yeah, it's delicious when you get the opportunity to do those things. Absolutely.
Yep. And I was buying the whole strawberries frozen. We have a Food Lion market here. I'm on an island and there's not a lot of places to shop unless you want to go 10 miles into the next city. And for groceries a week, that's not a trip I really want to take. So I realized that they sold the frozen sliced frozen strawberries. And sometimes there's a whole one in there, so the blender works a little extra hard, but they're unsweetened. So I'm getting the food value of the strawberries. Sometimes I'll add frozen blueberries or peaches, or they have a fruit medley, they call it, with different kinds of fruits in it and all frozen too. Next topic here, Mr. G. Your creativity superpower. Do you know what it is? Do you love it? Do you not love it? Does it get you in trouble? Does it get you success? What do you think it is?
My creativity superpower is I'm reluctant to say it's a superpower because well, I'll tell you what I think it is, although I downplay it because I think that I don't want to have the ego of saying it's a superpower, but let's just say that what it is that I can spark ideas very, very quickly. So I'm never at the loss of like identifying an abundance of ideas for any type of individual strategy, whether it goes from strategy to ideas or ideas to strategy and then supports it. And the other side of that is that there are probably a lot of people that can do that, but they don't actually have the ability to implement. So they don't really know the steps to take or actually know how to pull those levers. And I've been doing this stuff for so long that if I actually throw an idea out, I've already got running in my brain that, oh, I would have to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G to get that thing done. So I think that's probably a superpower. It's like being able to talk to a talented architect who actually knows how to build a building, right? And so
Okay, that's
you're
good.
saying, yeah, yeah. So that I guess without having too much of an ego, I think that's
Not an ego. If it's a talent and a skill and it's something that you're natural with, then that's a good thing. That's not a bad, but does it ever get you in trouble? Is it ever something you say, "Oh, I wish I hadn't said that," or "That's not feasible. I shouldn't have suggested it." You ever go there?
I think it gets me in trouble. It's got me in trouble sometimes because I think that to the degree that some folks are think that if something comes quickly, that it must not have value.
Oh,
And so as
okay.
a result, like, people think that you have to, and let's face it, there's a lot of businesses that will say, oh, well, give us some time and we'll come back in a month or two and we'll have something great. And like that's just their sales cycle, right? They get to like polish some report and sell it for 20 or 50K or whatever. So I think it's gotten me in trouble when I was younger in that a lot of businesses, they don't want you to do anything. They want you to just kind of cool your jets and justify, don't release the idea until they've stacked it a little bit with like more research. Whereas I am able to synthesize ideas pretty quickly. Let's just say that. So I'm able to get to an answer, but I could
That,
get in trouble if I spoke
that's
to.
a talent. I think that's an innovator's creativity. That's the constant flow of ideas using what you know and what you would like to know, what you see and can hold, and what you think you would like to have in the future. Isn't that where these ideas come from? Is maybe someday, or maybe a client would do this, or maybe I could use AI to create this. What if? It's the what if question. Isn't that what it is? What if?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing that's really amazing, and I don't necessarily have it, and that's why is that there are I know so many. Well, I know a number of artists that are just really talented, and the way their talent is different in that it's not about the spark of idea, or they don't have a clear, they can't communicate clearly what it is that they're going to get to, but they have this kind of vision in their brain and they have to let it unfold, kind of like painting or sculpture. And when they're not able to tell you what it is, but when they finally arrive, it's like when you see people that are painting with like layers of paint and you don't really know what it is until over a week or 2 weeks, you step back and it's this miracle
Yep.
of this tapestry. And I think that's just a completely different skill set. That's a different type of creativity that blows me away. Blows me away.
Okay. Well, it's good to be awed by that kind of thing. I like to say that my superpower, if you will, is that I enjoy talking to people and they seem to be comfortable talking with me. Look at you and me having this conversation. We're recording, we're live streaming here, and you trust me and I trust you, and we're having a good back and forth. And I like to think for a girl who grew up very shy, I think I was shy once, a long time ago, that this is something that I enjoy very much and very, very interesting. I've written, I've written some plays and directed them and produced them for my TV show on Long Island. And I used to think that I've got landscapers here doing stuff outside, so I'm hearing hoses and everything. I used to think that I could only write computer languages, Dan. And then one day I woke up and I said, damn, I can write and talk really well in English. I think I'll use that. And that was a revelation to me. And that's when I went into marketing from being a mainframe programmer analyst for many years. I realized that I had this skill of being able to speak with people and I enjoyed it. And then I accidentally got into TV and radio. And you know how those things go, that little spark sometimes, or that opportunity sometimes. And you say, yeah, what if? Why not? Why not? It's almost the thrill of the discovery. You've discovered so many things about yourself over the years, haven't you?
think so. I think
Yeah.
so.
Okay. See, we're coming up with all these ideas. So, question next one is there something other than your bread that you've made or bought for yourself that brings you a lot of joy? It doesn't have to be recent. Something that's it's wonderful that you just say, "Wow, I'm glad I have that," or "I bought that," or "I made that," or "I own that." Something?
Yeah, I mean, I really am not that much into things as much as
Mhm.
experiences. So I'd have to, I mean, I really don't really count on my hands the things that I have as
Mhm.
opportunities that I have. So I would say to be really clear, I'm really thankful that I've had the time that I've had to be able to travel and do the things that I've done. Like, I've been to many, many places in the world and spent a lot
Okay.
of time and fortunately I've done it a lot, especially when I was younger. And I think that the challenge is that part of wisdom is being able to get to access the things when they're most relevant to you and not miss out and then be chasing things later. I'm fortunate that travel's always been really important to me.
Mhm.
Important to me. Culture's been important to me, and I've been able to do those things when I was younger. And now that I'm a little bit older, I just want to kind of keep a pace of it. I care less about things. I'd rather have another trip under my belt. I'd rather like go to another place. I've been to a lot of places around the world. That's what makes me feel good.
Very, very cool. I was going to say things can give you an experience, though, and I'll give you a quick example. I used this on a show I did with somebody else last week. My colors are black and red. You obviously know that, and I wanted to put a brilliant, some kind of a very wonderful red bedspread on my bed. I moved to where I was in Eugene, and I was in New York, then I was Massachusetts, then I was in New Haven, then I'm all out of order. Then I was in Durham, North Carolina. Now I'm in Tennessee. So when I was bought this house 2 years and 4 months ago, I bought it over the internet. Yes, real people were showing it to me, but I had never set foot in the state until the day I closed down the house. So I bought it over Zoom. Yes, and I wanted a new bedspread. And so I went on, I guess it was Wayfair, and I found something that was a dark red, looked like velvety, and it had patterns in it, red on red. And it looked very plush, Dan. And I bought it, and it arrived, and I could hardly lift the package. This is a queen size bed. We're not talking massive here. And I opened it up. It is a weighted blanket, and I never saw that in the description. And they give these, I found out, to kids and people who need that warmth, that hug. They need that tightness of a blanket. Well, I thought, oh my God, what am I? So I put it on the bed and I stood there and I said, this is really beautiful. It's about this thick and it's red velvet with a pattern, like a big circle with designs around it. And when you put it on the bed, you can line up the pattern so that you know it's straight. And I like my bed to be straight. But every day now, when I make the bed, I go to the other side near the window and I run my hand down almost half of it and I feel the velvet.
Hmm.
And I just do that. And it's become a routine. And it probably sounds silly to you, but it's very comforting. And it just says to me, I bought something that I like. I like when I pull it up over my shoulders at night. it really comforts me, and it's very warm, obviously. And I like feeling that, yes, I made a good decision, even though I didn't know that I did. So there. So that's an experience from a thing. What do you think?
No, I totally buy into that. I guess so. Let me edit what I've said about like experiences versus things. First of all, I've done a ton of brand work. I'm a big believer in the value of brands.
Yep.
I buy things, and I believe that brands, when we align with them, and we become like a tribal believer of them, is that we there's some other shared value than just the consumption of the thing. It's that we actually believe in the value. We have a shared value, and that value could be that I want things to be made with a certain quality, that I want them to have align with the way I feel that the people that work there are treated, that there's a certain design ethos. It could be a whole bunch of things. I believe in the mission of the company. I think there's a lot of stories about it. And so while I'm not big into the consumption of a thing just to have it, I think the thing is that what you're saying are a lot of the things about why believe people actually buy and own things because they want the kind of the recognition of the quality or they know the story behind it. There's an amazing piece of art in the other room that we bought that I don't know how we got such an incredible price. It was a very unique store in Boston years ago, and it was like resold art, like pieces of art and antiques and all too expensive. We walked in, we were in this like cool neighborhood. We walked in and everything was expensive. We're like, oh, we were asking, but we had no interest. And there was this picture on the walls. It's a framed thing, right? And it was, we thought there was a couple of zeros missing from the price. It's huge. Frame is made from an old barn in New England,
Ooh.
so the frame itself is like incredible. And then it was this old kind of blanket that was hand woven by like this Indian tribe in South America, South America.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened is that somebody sold it because they had to pay the, I don't know exactly how they sold it to the store. Somebody bought it at a very high price. And then I guess they sold it again. I don't know. Anyway, the store was losing their lease. So they sold it to us for nothing. Anyway, the point is the story about the blanket itself,
Mm-hmm.
like that's about like the story. We wanted it because it was, yes, it was beautiful. It was a little bit more expensive than we had to pay. But then we heard about the story of the blanket, and the blanket was that, which is what is framed in this picture. It's
Mm-hmm.
actual blankets, like it's the actual fabric. Is that when a person was born into this village, all of the women would come together and would weave this blanket together collectively, and it would be based on like the narrative of their lifetimes. And so they would tell stories, and then they would make this blanket for the baby, and the baby would have all their lives. And now we have that up on the wall. Well, I love the story of
Mm-hmm.
that thing. I don't care about having a thing. I appreciate that there's a story and I can share that story. So that's why I want that thing. And that's probably one of the reasons why people want to have like the blanket that's on your bed or a
Yep.
Patagonia jacket for somebody. So yeah. Anyway.
Okay. All right. Oh, I just got a phone call. It's Steven Spielberg. I got another phone call. It's James Cameron. I got another one. It's Martin Scorsese. Oh, David E. Kelly is on the line. Shonda Rhimes, Greta Gerwig, and they all said we think Danji is really an interesting person. He's traveled. He's been with companies. He started companies. He has a good eye for quality, for beauty, and he's smart. So we want to make either a movie about him or a TV show about him. So which director would you pick, Mr. Danji? Who would you like, meaning the genre? What would you like?
Wow. I would be impressed. Those people want to make a story about me.
Oh, they do. They do. I've got them all. I've got five phones here. They're all on the line.
I would be pleased to have any of them, David Kelly or Steven Spielberg. I don't really, I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that question. I think that, who I'd be impressed with? Um, did you see Anora that just came out? The one
No, I didn't see it yet.
it's an amazing movie. And it was
Okay.
$6 million. And the one best screenplay, best director, best actor, best sound, I think, right? Like
Yep. It swept.
$1 million. The talent of that person, who I don't even know his name, like
Yep.
he's not even like a bit like and if you see when you see it, the authenticity of that movie. I mean, the quality of the writing and the authenticity, and then the directing. I think it would be pretty amazing just to have somebody of that talent be able to have your story in a movie.
Okay. I'm going to simplify the question then. Okay, what's your favorite movie genre? Let's say it's going to be a movie: drama, fantasy, action, musical, romance, mystery, comedy, sci-fi, thriller, war.
Thriller drama, like
Okay.
like what's the series that was with Matt Damon, Jason Bourne, that kind of thing.
Okay, thriller. So we're going to do a thriller about your life. Okay, so now we've narrowed it down. So whoever is going to do a really good thriller would be making your movie. Who would play you, Dan? You can't do it. You're busy. You're busy creating brands for big companies and you're traveling all over the world and you're going to Spain. I know of that. You're way too busy. Who would play you? Who would you like to see as Dan Geller on the screen? Or the character representing you? Go ahead.
God, no. I'm amazed that you're asking me this. It's embarrassing. Um, I,
Would
I,
it be a Tom Cruise? Would it be a Matt Damon? Would you like that?
I'll say,
Matt
yeah, I think he's probably a little bit younger than me. He's from Boston, and he's a really great actor. And yeah, so I'll
Matt
say,
Damon. Okay. And what would the movie be called?
oh God, why am I playing this goofball, Dan? I don't know, Bonnie.
I have one. I have one for you. How about calling it brandishing?
Brandishing.
Brandishing.
That's
Think of
good.
the implications of that word: brandishing a sword, brandishing a weapon, brandishing a brilliant idea, and brand. You're the brand guy, right? Would you like that?
That would be cool. That would be cool. I think about it. I think about Matt Damon in Brandishing playing me. Of course, the characters that he plays are a little bit more interesting than me, but yeah.
Well, it would be a thriller, so somebody would have to write it as a thriller. You'd be a character in a thriller, but it would be based on where you've traveled and the companies you've worked for and the places you've lived. It would be the shell of the character would be described, the demographics would be about you. So you could say it was you in your thriller moment. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think it's
Good. I'm glad. I've been thinking about this for me, and I think it would be wouldn't be with a song in her heart. It would be something dancer or something stand up. It would just be called stand up for whatever. And I went through four redheads who were famous. Only one of them is alive now. Two of them are alive. Um, Rita Hayworth, Maureen O'Hara, Lucille Ball. And the two who are alive, I suggested one, and somebody suggested another one to me. One would be Bette Midler, and the other one is Reba McEntire, who has a very funny sitcom out now called Happy's Place, where she's running a bar that she inherited from her father.
hmm,
And various people come in and out of it. And the writing is actually pretty good. I didn't like it at the beginning, but I had nothing else to do one night, so I binged a couple episodes on demand, and it was really good. And I like her. I like her for she's red. I like the country music. I like, I'm not a country girl. So I think my movie would be, I don't know, red boots. It would be because gotta have red boots for my drums. It would be called red boots, red lady, something like that. And I would pick Reba. I think Bette Midler is way too off the charts for me, but Reba's more approachable and more authentic. So what do you think? Would you go see that movie about me?
yeah, I think, and I do think you're right. I think you're closer to a Reba than a Bette Midler. Bette Midler is not. I mean, I don't want to knock it. There'll probably be people coming after me if I say anything bad about Bette Midler, but
Oh,
I think that Reba's much more like present tense, whereas Bette
yep.
Midler is like I don't necessarily know that she's in current people's minds
I
anymore.
think so. And by the way, there's a chef, a cook a short order cook in the bar, and
Uh,
it's played by Rex Lynn, Rexlinn, who was in some detective show or a crime show many years ago, and he is now he wears a rag around his head, and he's the hardcore hard boy, and he's her boyfriend in real life, and they're in the show together. I thought that was pretty
that's
cool,
cool. I
really, really cool.
What's really interesting is that we when we project, and I mean, I think this is one of the talents of like writers and directors, is that the exercise that you're talking about is that when we project ourselves like in a movie, which I've never frankly done, we think of ourselves in this kind of like this heroic place, right? With this like stand up place. But I think the reality is that some of the most amazing stories, the amazing movies, are actually where they show the smallness and the uniqueness of a person, but they're in a unique situation. And so like that's what like
Mhm.
an aura is that this person isn't famous until they have this incredible like turn of events in their lives.
Yep.
Or if you've seen, I think it's on Apple TV or HBO, Bad Sisters. Have you seen the Bad Sisters?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Love it. You love it. And it's about
Okay.
Irish sisters. It's phenomenal writing. And so the circumstances of their lives are dramatic, but otherwise you get to know them as just these sisters that are like, they have this intimate relationship with one another. And so like you get to know them individually. They're not necessarily like rock stars until they have this experience that's unique to them.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
One question before we go to our say what I have to say what story. Coffee or tea? Do you make it? Do you buy it? Do you brew it? For tea, is it a bag or is it loose tea leaves? For coffee, latte, espresso, cappuccino, do you have a machine? Do you just drink regular coffee? What are your preferences? What do you drink?
Coffee over tea, definitely.
Okay.
Coffee, I've got to get a new Nespresso machine because ours is kind of tapped out. So
I'll loan mine to you if you ever come down here to Tennessee. I don't want mine anymore. I'm not using it. You can
yeah,
have
no,
it.
it's old, so we have to get a new one. Espresso and then regular coffee. I mean, I definitely do like two a day.
Okay.
Um, love coffee, love strong coffee. I do not really buy it in. As a matter of fact, we were traveling the other day. We stopped in a Starbucks. I got the tab. I was like, why would you ever
Careful.
buy coffee? So yeah, I don't really buy coffee, like go out to buy coffee unless I'm meeting a friend. Um, tea, yeah, I mean, I have tea in the summer. I drink a lot of tea, like iced tea. I'll buy like pretty good tea. And so I do
Hmm.
stuff. But I'm for the most part coffee. Coffee's my thing. Yeah.
I used to love dark coffee, straight, as dark as you can get it, as cocoa-y as you can get it. And now I cannot tolerate caffeine, even the tiniest smidgen, even decaf coffee is too much. I'll be climbing the walls. So I'm a peppermint and chamomile tea drinker, and I'll microwave the water in a nice big mug, and then I'll drop the tea bag in it and microwave it another 30 seconds. If it's too hot, I do something horrible. I put an ice cube in it so it's hot enough but drinkable. And then when I'm done with that, I will add more filtered water from the fridge and leave it in the fridge overnight so that the tea bag will steep into the cold water, and I'll use it for a refreshing cool drink. No milk, no cream, no sugar, no lemon, no nothing. I'll use it for a day or two, and then when I think it's run its course, I'll throw out the bag and start again. What do you think?
So you don't, yeah, I mean, I guess I'm so used to coffee that it would be hard for me to think about like,
Yeah.
right? And I don't, while I like tea, I don't see it as the thing that gets me is when people say coffee or tea. I don't think it's in all in the same family other than they're both in a mug. Like I don't, I get the different things from them. So,
Well, for me, it is an or, because any kind of coffee, even decaf, will have a smidge of caffeine that will bother me. So I'm better off with a real herbal tea that will not have any caffeine in it. That's the difference. So for me, it is an either or.
yeah. Well, I mean, and you figured out how to, so you're not even able to eat and drink any like black teas, nothing
No,
caffeinated at all.
I don't think so. It's not worth trying. But I learned to drink tea when I was a student in traveling in Europe, in Switzerland. I stayed with a French family in Neuchâtel, Switzerland many years ago, and they served us for breakfast. We each got two croissants with a big jar on the table of preserves, cherry or strawberry or something, and tea, as many mugs of tea as we wanted. And we learned to drink it with milk so that we would have a little bit of a little bit of protein in the morning before, and we come back. Lunch was the main meal. But I learned to drink a couple of mugs of tea with a little bit of milk in it, and just to make it last, because that's all you got for breakfast. So anyway, I might start putting milk in the tea again. So enough about that. Let's go to say what? Okay. What have you got for me? You want to share a visual or just talk about it? Because I'm going to share my visuals.
I think I sent you a video, but I mean, the two things I wanted to share with you were that I think was actually funny, which I saw actually on, I saw it on TikTok. I heard about it. I'm like, no, that's not true. And then I saw it and I'm like, okay. And I
Okay.
validated, no, it's the same. So it's the guy. So listen, when this is a story, true story. And actually, you would ask me for these say what stories. So let's like preface it by saying that when I was like looking for say what stories, I didn't want to say anything that was in the news because so
No,
much of the present news is so say what, but it's not particularly
not
positive.
what we're talking about. Yes,
So
this is wacky news that we can share with people, and they won't say, "Oh my God, how could you?" This. Oh,
if you remember Seinfeld, which I certainly do, I lived in New York City when Seinfeld was on. I could tell you a couple stories about that, but I lived in the Upper West Side where Seinfeld was supposedly from,
ooh,
where he was
nice.
from. So it was kind of like a one-to-one for me because I felt like I was living through the Seinfeld era. So there is a character named Jay Peterman, and it was and the guy that
The
played
catalog, the J. Peterman catalog. You go ahead. Go ahead.
so that was a real guy. There's a real guy named Jay Peterman, right? And so they wrote the story. This is a true, absolutely true story. I forget the name of the actor that played Jay Peterman, but Elaine worked for Jay Peterman, and
Right.
they based it on the Jay Peterman catalog company. Well, the Jay Peterman, they literally lifted it from it. And so this guy, Jay Peterman, could have sued them. He could have sued them because they were literally using the Jay Peterman catalog.
Right.
He decided instead he would just let it ride. And it actually helped his business because he now had some exposure because whoever knew about Jay Peterman. Well, if you recall from the show back then, the Jay Peterman catalog was a kind of a unique catalog in that it would talk about the adventures that you would have if you wore a Jay Peterman shirt or whatever. And he used to sell these shirts and stuff, and his catalog was written by like a book, written by Jay Peterman, by the
Yep.
actual Peterman. Okay, flash forward, and this is the incredulity of this story, which I had heard was the actor, and I forget his name, that played Jay Peterman, what became friends with the actual Jay Peterman.
John O'Hurley.
What's his name? John what?
John O'Hurley. O apostrophe Hurley. I looked it up for you. Go ahead.
He became friends with the actual real Jay Peterman.
Really?
Jay Peterman had some business challenges and the business was going south. And since they had a very strong friendship and Jay O'Hurley had some money from the Seinfeld era,
Mm-hmm.
Jay O'Hurley decided to go into business with him in real life.
Really?
Right. And as a result, I guess they did some promotion together. And the business has done really well with the support of John O'Hurley. But to this day, people think that John O'Hurley, who
Is
played Jay Peterman, is the real Jay
Jay
Peterman.
Peterman?
Jay Peterman, nobody knows who he is. So
That's a great
all
story.
done really well. So I think that yeah, that was an interesting story. I thought that was the
I'm going to share one with you. I love that one. Thank you very much. Let me share one with you. I'm going to do a screen share here. Let's do this. Okay. This is a gentleman. I don't know why this was in the news recently. Oh, because it's Pi Day. Okay, Pi Day. This gentleman in 2006, his name is Akira Haraguchi, and he lives somewhere in Japan, and he memorized pi, Dan, to 100,700 digits. It was an event in 2006, and he set the unofficial world record for reciting the most digits of pi, 100,000 over 16 hours. He linked each digit with a syllable and created a collection of stories from the words the syllables formed. Pi is more than a number, it's a calling. He told The Guardian, all things in the world, including ourselves, are aggregate sums of atoms, which are made up of rotating electrons. The ultimate history of mankind is moving toward a happy ending for people of all races. The Earth, the galaxy, and the universe all rotate. In other words, rotation is the absolute truth. So as long as I'm thinking about pi, I think I can live a life according to truth. Interesting?
yeah.
And Pi Day was created in 1988 by a physicist working at the San Francisco Exploratorium, and his name was Larry Shaw. And here's a little picture of Larry Shaw right here. I'll blow this up a little bit. And Pi Day, it was designated in 2009 by the U.S. House of Representatives, but they would march around a circular space, talk about pie, and eat fruit pies. So, does anybody not know what pi is? Pi is, anyway, pi is an approximation of a symbol, and it's, let's see, the date would be, what have we got here? March 14th. Is it 3.14666666? I think that's what it is. Probably, somebody's probably going to tell me I'm totally wrong. 6.28 is approximation of 2 pi or tau. June 28th is another day. So there you go. Okay, so that's my first one. So what's your second one? What do you think of that, by the way? Cool?
Awesome. That's awesome. And I had actually been to the Exploratorium when my kids were very little to the actual place. I did not realize that the person, one of the people that was from, I guess, the staff of the Exploratorium invented Pi Day. But
Yeah,
it is a really, if it's for mostly younger kids, like younger families and stuff like that, but it's a cool place, beautiful place.
very cool.
That's a cool story. The other one was, I tried to keep it positive. Was that there was a story about, and I'm sure I can find it. I think it's like it was in People magazine. I'll actually share it with you. I think it's right here. Let me see if I
Okay. And I'm
can.
going to share the real story of what pi is because I should have done that to begin with when you're done. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just trying to do the share. So let's see if I can get it. So okay, yeah. So this story, if I do a share screen, where if I do a command,
Share at the bottom and then it'll come up and screen will be left-hand choice. There
this
you
one.
go.
There you go. So, in any event, it was this story about this Uber driver. I mean, it's simple. The headline: This guy picked up his friend who he hadn't seen for 20 years, and they rekindled their friendship. And so, there's not much else to say other than they were friends when they were much younger. And I guess one of them became an Uber driver, and they ran into each other while the guy was driving Uber, which I think is a pretty cool story. I
It's
don't really know.
very, very, very cool. Oh my goodness. And is there a story about how they recognized each other? They say, "Hey, you look familiar," or "Yeah, I think I know you. You don't know me. I see it right here. What's your name again?" "My name is Danny."
Yeah,
Interesting.
I mean, it's light, right? It's not like you could see it happening, except that it doesn't happen every day, right? So, and it reminds me of actually, we hear these kind of like the same theme over and over again. My brother is a journalist. When he was in school, he did a series on people that were rekindled with their parents. And one of the stories that he read was about a young woman who was on campus that found her father, who she was
Uh-huh.
adopted. She never knew. It was kind of a negative story. She didn't have a good relationship with her parents. She had an abusive father, but then she found out that he was her adopted father and she found her real father. So it's like this rekindling, and it's nice to see, like, okay, People magazine, it's kind of fodder for whatever, but
Yeah.
nice that, he stepped into a Uber and found an old friend. That's kind of cool. I think
Dan, in the first romantic comedy play I wrote called Hail, Hail, a couple gets in a cab in front of Penn Station. It was all done on green screen. A couple gets into a cab and they are not doing well on their way to their first date in Manhattan. And the second act of the play is when they are traveling through New York again and they get in a cab in front of Penn Station and it's the same cab driver. And
yeah.
he says, this was my play. I wrote this. And he says, "I know you two." And her name was Tiffany and his name was Zale. And he said, "You two are the two kids who were named for the jewelry stores." And that begins the second act where he's taking them somewhere to get a divorce in the play. But he remembered them. And that reminds me of your story. The cab driver said, "I know you two. I took you on your first date 9 years ago."
And you,
Interesting.
yeah, and you wrote that play?
I wrote that play. Yeah, I'll send you a link. I have it on my Vimeo channel. Would you like to see it?
Yeah, that's very cool. And so I mean, were you trying to make a statement about how,
No, I was just having fun. I just brought it up to Y2K. It ended in it started in 1999, and they thought the world was going to end, and he'd never been married, and his mother said, "Are you ever going to get married? And the world's going to end, and why don't you do it now?" And he signed up for a dating site, and I won't tell you the rest, but anyway, it's years. I think there might have been three acts in between, and then the final one. It has a beautiful, bittersweet happy ending. So I'll send you my play. I think you'll enjoy it. So I want to thank you for asking. I want to screen share two things. Let's see. The first thing, go back to desktop. I looked up pi, and shame on me for not doing it before. Pi is 3.14159265359. And the gentleman in the story I read before took it to 100,000 numbers. So anybody who doesn't know what pi is, it's pi. It actually looks like the Hebrew letter chet there. Hey, the number pi is a mathematical constant approximately equal to 3.14159, the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter. It appears in many formulae across mathematics and physics, and some of these are commonly used for defining pi to avoid relying on the definition of the length of a curve. So there you go. That's the real story of pi. So I'm going to stop that, and I'm going to show you my second article. Dinosaur prints were found on what they think is a dinosaur highway, Dan. I don't think you ever traveled here. Eons ago, highways were populated not by Fords and Mercedes, but megalosauruses and sauropods. And paleontologists recently discovered the UK's largest dinosaur footprint site, 200 fossils in southern England that dates back 166 million years ago, and they're calling it the Dinosaur Highway. They say the footprints offer an extraordinary window into the lives of dinosaurs, revealing details about their movements, their interactions, and the tropical environment they inhabited. A quarry worker was digging up clay and he noticed bumps. And the bumps led to the unearthing of a dinosaur print and then the rest of the tracks, which were notable not only for how numerous they were, but for how precise they are. The preservation is so detailed, we can see how the mud was deformed as the dinosaur's feet squelched in and out. Interesting?
Yeah, that's very, very cool.
See,
That's
I
so
love to collect these stories. I'm glad you liked it. You got one? Have you got one more for me?
I do. It's not as upbeat. It was this story about the
Oh, tell. Come on, I gave you permission. It's okay.
and I don't know if it's valid. Sometimes you hear these stories and you're like, well, is that true? So, and it's from something called Global News, but it was this story.
Ah, Dan, go ahead.
Well, it's not the New York Times, and I don't doubt the New York Times. But in any event, this couple kissed, and apparently, which is nice, except that
What would have been?
the young woman was allergic to peanut butter, and he had eaten peanut butter, and so she passed away because she was not. She had an anaphylactic shock to the peanut butter.
Oh
So,
my goodness.
and we have positives and we have negatives, and I guess the theme is that you never know what's going to happen, and not that you shouldn't be kissing your boyfriend, but maybe you should find out if he's just ate peanut butter.
I never thought to ask anybody. I'm not allergic, but I might have to ask the next person who comes through here if they are allergic because I buy wonderful everything mini bagels at my local Food Lion. And they're, of course, Dan, they're not as good as New York bagels. We all know that. But
Right.
they do a really good job and they're small. So I freeze them and then I'll take a few out and I'll cut it in half, put it in the toaster just a little bit, and I'll put a little bit of butter on it and then a little bit of peanut butter. That to me, I know there's a lot of carbs in there, a lot of sugar, but that to me is a snack mid-morning that'll keep me going until I have lunch. And so now I have to say to somebody, if I want to kiss them, I just had peanut butter this morning. Are you allergic? You know something? That is actually an interesting, socially relevant question. Thank you, Dan.
I, I'm not allergic to peanut butter, and I'm not going around kissing a lot of people. Because in this particular story, one of the things that's unusual to me is that you would think that if she was allergic to peanut butter and she didn't know that, and wouldn't it be like no peanut butter, like absolutely you cannot eat peanut butter, and so
Wouldn't he have known not to kiss her after he had?
yes, wouldn't he have right? So
I
that's the thing that's a little
I
odd.
think there's a detective show in there. We'll put that in your movie, okay? When Matt
Okay,
Damon plays you, it'll be the peanut butter brandishing peanut butter. There's your movie. I have one more to show you. I think you will enjoy this. Let me do the desktop. Here we go. Okay. This gentleman is 95 years old. He is the world's oldest speed skater. He started skating in his late 80s. He was a farmer. He published poetry, and he was a mission flyer in World War II. I will leave out the details of that because we don't want to talk about that. He competed in his first international race 7 years ago in Moscow. He moved down the ice at the pace of a brisk jog. It took him three times as long to the finish line as most of the skaters. He was 88 years old, three times the oldest competitor, and he earned a silver medal in the 85 and up bracket because there weren't too many people there. Ever since he has only won gold at 95, a national competition in Japan, they created the category just for him, 95 and over. Here's a picture of him. Mr. Marumo. Let me make the picture a little bit bigger here, standing at a rink in Nagano, Japan. He says, I win a gold medal every time I appear. He lives in a small city in the rugged mountains of central Honshu, Japan's main island. He has 20 medals. He had them in a bag, including races in the Netherlands and Canada. On his wall, he has plaques from Guinness, the Book of World Records, proclaiming him to be the oldest male competitive speed skater. His closest rival is a youngster at 80 years old who is a Dutch skater. The current competition is a woman who's 80. Racing wasn't his idea. A friend said, "I dare you." He said, "Hey, that'd be kind of cool." So he never expected to be an international racer. He first skated around age 10 in 1940, and he tied handmade metal blades onto wooden sandals and raced against his elementary school classmates across frozen rice paddies. Is that cool?
That is cool. That is
Yep.
cool.
Cool beans. Those are I collect these stories every day, Dan. I get a lot of newsletters in my email. I've signed up for them, and they're interesting. The AI and the Neuron and Nike's News and Morning Brew. And as soon as I scan them early in the morning, I say, that's a good one. And I will copy the text. I will open up a new email or a document, and I will send it to myself. And it says FOR, to Saucy. And then
Yeah.
it goes into a folder of say what articles. So I have over 100 of these already. Is that cool?
Yeah, that's awesome. So you have like an automation. You've built out an automation
No, it's just a Word document, and I just keep a folder on on my desktop, and it's just called Wacky Stories. It says for any show, and then before I meet with somebody like you, and I've got another show this Friday, I'll go through and I'll say, what to myself, what would interest this guest? What might they find intriguing or interesting if I picked this article to share? And so that's what I picked for you. I'm glad you like them.
I think the stories that are interesting also because, well, we were talking about this before. I think the thing is that when you watch news or read news, most of the news that we have is like it kind of, it brings you down, or like kind of like it puts you in a place where you're like concerned about one thing or the other. And I'm not going to get into what those things are.
Nope.
But when you read stories like this that are, they're remarkable, you ponder them for a while because you're like,
Yeah.
that idiot kiss his girlfriend and kill her because of the people. But you're
And
actually taking some
And why would a 95-year-old want to keep skating? Probably because maybe his house is too hot and he likes the cold and the skates feel good and maybe the girls are waving at him. Who knows?
but even yeah, like I'm pondering while you're telling me that story, like, maybe he's just doing it just to say, I'm not done yet. Like
Yeah.
maybe he doesn't actually enjoy it. He's just staking a claim. I'm not done. Don't count me out.
I
And
like
like
that.
that's a positive way
It
of
is a positive, and that's why I said last dance. I may be dancing in my kitchen now, but I haven't had my last dance yet. There we go. Dan G, it's been lovely. Do you have any advice for a coming up through the ranks cool dude, somebody younger, in order to be cool in their life? You have any advice? Or you could just say no. That's okay. Be like Dan. What do you think?
advice. I think you should just have fun. I think that
Watch the movie.
yeah, yeah. Try to get a movie deal. Maybe that's the advice. Try to get a movie deal and get paid a lot and then be interviewed about it. There you
You
go.
know what? You know what? What if you live your life like you're planning for somebody to do a biopic about you? And you know that you like a comedy or you like a thriller or you like sci-fi, and you're thinking, how would this fit into writing my own screenplay?
You could do that. Would maybe be a little narcissistic, but maybe
Aren't we all, dear? I'm going to play the outro music. I want you to dance again because I didn't start the recording soon enough to start all the dancing you did. So let's see, I got the sound up. Make sure I got all my sound up here. We're going to play the song, and Dan, it's been just delicious, delightful having you here. I'm so glad you took the time out of your very, very busy life, not just your busy day, your busy life. I'm very honored that you joined me on this. And if you know any other cool dudes you think would like to talk to me, I'm open for suggestions. Let's play the music and we'll dance and then we'll go out. So don't go away yet.
okay, sounds good. We'll dance.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay, give me those moves. So you want to be a cool kid. Hanging with the insect. Looking real. Cool and fine. Oh, Dan. Oh, here we go. Let's do the drum roll. Bop, 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 bop. Thank you to Serge Hoffman for creating the music and singing my song, Dan Geller. It's been delightful. I'd like you